Shop vacs. The bane of every small workshop person's life when trying to do dust collection in your shop and still not make your ears bleed. Hey everybody, my name is Sam and welcome back to Samcraft. In today's video, I want to take you along as I go through a journey that took me about 2 weeks, and that was building an enclosure for my shop vac. Now in my small workshop, 16 feet by 16 feet, I use a shop vac for all of my dust collection needs. Up until this point, my dust collection system in my workshop has been a shop vac with a dust separator acting as the middleman between point A and point C, I guess, because dust collector is being point B. That's worked out pretty good, but as I transition my shop and make room and prepare for my Shapeoko Pro CNC to arrive, I came to the realization that, okay, CNC jobs take a while to run. What's my dust collection system? A shop vac. Okay, oh my gosh, that shop vac is going to be annoyingly loud for a long time. I've got to find some kind of solution to make this a better situation and a quieter situation. Mother being the necessity of all invention, I then had the epiphany to build myself a shop vac enclosure, but Samcraft style. One of the key motivation points behind this, other than my CNC, was the fact that someone gave me a Dust Deputy Cyclone kit, and I wanted to put it to use. I then kind of squirreled down the pathway of, well, let's look at shop dust collection systems and Cyclone setups and all that, and let's see what I can find that would fit in my space. Most of the ones that I saw were kind of open and seemed kind of tall. And they were pretty basic, I guess you could say. And I think that's because most of the ones that I saw on YouTube and online were designed to be very universal and very plan sales driven. Meaning that, hey guys, watch me build this and I'll sell you some plans and you can build it for yourself. Now don't get me wrong, that's totally cool. And that's something that I actually do when it's applicable or the right situation. But in this case, I wanted something that was a lot more compact and really just kind of fit my needs better. This all started with using up more of this leftover construction grade plywood that I had in my workshop. The same kind of stuff I built these cabinets from a couple of weeks ago and other things. And so that got me to finding out, what's the size box do I need? I just wanted to sit my shop vac in an enclosure and figure that that would be good enough. Once I had the enclosure built, I then got to thinking, okay, do I want to continue down the same path that I have historically been doing by piping my exhaust down through the floor and out of my workshop? Or do I want to try and do something that won't just blow the heated workspace out in the winter time, which is the time of year it is right now? That squirrel idea then led me to a little more investigation and the creation of a exhaust baffle for a shop vac. So you might be asking yourself, hey, wait a second, he said a shop vac baffle? What is that? I've never heard of that. Well, basically, it's a muffler that goes on your shop vac. Now, don't confuse this with those little foam diffusers you can put on the exhaust ports. Those are designed to diffuse the air. A baffle, in this sense, is kind of more like a car muffler, but for your shop vac. So the basic concept of the baffle that I built was, let's just break up the line of travel for sound waves for the shop vac without limiting airflow. In my case, that meant taking it down one side, going through a couple of zigzags, making a U-turn, going through a couple more zigzags, and then exiting down below on the bottom of my cabinet. In hindsight, this worked out great. I probably could put more baffles in this, but I didn't want to restrict it too bad. And to be honest, with the enclosure that I'm building here, you're only going to mitigate so much air noise, and you're really still going to be fighting just vibration or resonance chamber noises inside. So I wouldn't suggest getting any more crazy or complicated than what I did. My 2 cents, for whatever it's worth. So once I had the baffle in place, I put the shop vac in there, and I began to think along the lines of where I wanted to mount this Cyclone. I know I wanted the Cyclone on top of the cabinet so that it was easy to use for hooking the hoses to and everything, but I also knew that I didn't want to make something that was like 6 feet tall. I wanted to, if any way possible, figure out a way to have my dust container, or the Cyclone chip container bucket thing, within the same size and confines of the inside of the cabinet. So with a lot of head scratching and a little bit of hacking with my shop vac, I actually got everything to fit. I used my dust separator as a donor for a good portion of this project. The bottom half of the dust separator is a rigid bucket, and that is perfect for what I need. You want something that it won't collapse with the suction from the dust collection system, and you want something that is, you know, in my case, here, readily available, and even more in my case, something that I'm not going to be using anymore. I toyed with the idea of 2.5 gallon buckets or 5 gallon buckets, but kind of didn't come up with a solution that I really liked, and that's what made me go down this road of making a shelf for the bucket to sit on, and then mounting the Cyclone to the top of the enclosure. I know guys, I can hear you screaming. You're thinking I'm an idiot. I'm a complete idiot. You're hacking up your shop vac. You've already cut it in half. Now you cut your handle off. What in the world are you doing? Well, I'm doing what I want to. It's my shop vac. Truth be told, this thing is old. I've had it for probably close to 8 years. It's got a bad bearing in the motor. I've pulled it apart. I've replaced it. Okay, in that case, it's not the bearing. It's got something going on. So this guy's on its last leg. And I'm at the point where, you know what? I'm going to get this project done. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. So, just so you know, you probably won't want to copy me exactly on what I do with this project. I got the shop vac out, and I've determined there is no way that this is going to fit from this end. Not without completely, more so than I've already done, destroying the shop vac. So what I'm going to do, since I have a lot of this construction, where is it? Here it is. This construction plywood, I still got quite a bit left over. I'll just put a door on the back. So let's proceed with tearing that back panel off and then see if the shop vac will fit in there. So yeah, let's destroy it. Looks like it fits. So it just looks like I'm going to end up making 2 doors with this thing. I was digging around my scrap plywood pile, and I found a piece of 1/2 inch plywood of okayness. So I think I'm going to make this the door, which will probably end up making this the front of the cabinet, or at least the side that you see the most in the workshop. Not only because this is pretty, but also because the Cyclone is going to be above the blue barrel, and I don't want that sticking on the front of the cabinet. I'd rather be closer to the wall. So it all works out. Here is the shelf that I built for the bucket or dust collection bucket to sit. This piece here is just wedged in place. It pushes up on the shelf to get rid of any kind of sag that may develop over time, because as the weight of the Cyclone sits on the top and then the bucket gets full and sits and just things in general move, it's nice to have this to just translate the weight all the way from the top down to the base of the cabinet. This piece is easily removed because I don't know if I'm going to remove it or need it in the future, so it's fine. It is in there solid enough, but it's still removable. Here you can see the fitting portion for the shop vac. This is some more of the 2-inch PVC that I just sand off the edges for. There's a video about me making these down there in the playlist somewhere. What this allows me to do is easily connect to my shop vac to either 2-inch PVC, or in my case, I'm actually got some 2.5-inch dust collection hose that's flexible, and I'm going to put a flex fitting from here up to the top, and then from here it'll be rigid going to the Cyclone. I remembered I had something in my home office that I bought a long time ago whenever I thought I would do voiceovers and audio work in there for videos. That never panned out. But I have a bunch of these little acoustical foam squares. They measure about 1 foot square, and they're going to be easy to tack up on the insides of the cabinet with some staples to help in dampening the sound inside the cabinet so I don't just create a big resonance chamber. So before I work on doing the dust collection piping and the electrical, I want to go ahead and staple as many of these panels inside the cabinet as I can, and then we will move on from there. There we go. I've used up all my squares of foam, and I've got it pretty well covered too. I put the last little bit of scraps here and there, as you saw, just to fill in the spaces. Now, this blank spot on the door, I left it empty on purpose because that's where the majority of the air exhaust is coming out of the shop vac, and I didn't want it to become any kind of major dust collection buildup spot and cause any problems in the future. I don't expect a ton of dust to be coming out of this because I will be running a HEPA filter in this vac, so it should be minimal, but I just didn't want to restrict or further block this exhaust port at all by putting foam around it. Alright, I've run into an issue where the bolts that hold the Cyclone down to the plywood box itself are going to interfere and hit the bucket that's underneath, that's inside this box, because it fits right up to the underside of this plywood. After scratching my head a little bit, I've decided to take a scrap piece of plywood and trace the outline of the Cyclone and pretty much create a riser block of sorts for me to bolt this to here, and then I will glue this down to the top of my plywood box. I'll still be able to unbolt the Cyclone if I need to, but effectively I'm going to glue a ring of plywood on top to raise it up a little bit to give clearance for the bolts to be installed backwards. So the heads will be here and the nuts and washers will be on the outside. As far as plumbing the Cyclone to the shop vac, it was pretty easy. I used my same 2-inch PVC shop vac connector fittings, a couple of elbows, some pipe, and then a section of 2.5-inch flexible dust collector hose. I made that section flexible so that I could take the shop vac in and out, swap out the vac for a different model whenever this one dies, and give myself some flexibility down inside the container to future-proof the situation. Needing a place to store this 16-foot long hose led me to again look around my shop, and I saw the other half of my shop vac that I had hacked apart earlier. Turns out it works okay as a hose holder. It's a little bit ugly though. I want to come up with a prettier design, or actually I'll probably be changing the hose setup in the near future anyway, because when my CNC arrives I want that kind of more permanently plumbed in, but then I also want to have the ability to use the hose for cleaning up, or have maybe a shorter run to my other tools over here, and I just know the process will evolve over time. As far as quietness of this enclosure, I think I want to use some cheap sound meter app on my phone, which of course is scientific and perfect, but kind of get a reading there to show you guys what is ambient room noise, what is system running noise, and stuff of that nature. So without further ado, let's roll that footage. Pretty cool, huh? Now I will say that it's not super quiet, but it is so much more quiet than just the shop vac sitting out in the open. Plus, it's nice to have my dust collection system now in a portable box on wheels. I don't plan on moving it around my shop, but if I needed to, I could totally do that. Just unplug it and push it to wherever I want and plug it in the wall and hook it up. You're ready to go. So the little trick about the dial on the side of the box, if you're wondering what that is, it is basically a motor controller. It's cheap, it's from online, it just kind of slows the speed of certain motors. It doesn't work for all electrical motors. I think it has to be, I think it's a universal motor. Either way, it allows you to control the voltage and therefore control the speed of a motor. In the case of this shop vac, what that speed controller allows me to do is lower the speed and lower the noise. This is going to apply with my CNC when it arrives. A lot of people will use these with a CNC to perfectly dial in just exactly how much dust collection they need to lower the decibels of the shop vac as it runs for hours and hours. In my case, with my enclosure, it wasn't 100% needed, but it's something I had on hand in my shop anyway that wasn't being used, and I thought, kind of a cool little thing to experiment. Sure, we'll plug it up. It's easy to connect. The cord out of the box plugs into the controller, then the controller plugs into the wall, and it just hangs out happily on the front of the cabinet, hooked over one of the screws of the hinges, backed out just a little bit. So it's easily replaced. It's easily removed if I want to in the future, but I did just want to explain what exactly that was, what's the reason, and hey, let you know there'll be some experiments in the future. So the goal of this whole video is not to show you a finished product that is perfect, that is precise, and that is awesome. The goal of this project is to show you what could be done using scraps, random hardware, and kind of show you what happens when you do the first iteration of something that's completely new and different. Hopefully this project will inspire you to maybe come up with a solution similar, or completely not, if you think this is horrible, for your own workshop, and give you the confidence to know that it's okay if you try and it doesn't work out. You've at least tried and you've learned so much in that process. Hopefully this video has helped you. If it has, give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. If you make your own version, find me over on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at samcraft.com. And if you have any questions or comments or anything, you know what to do. Put them down below. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.